Okay, so let's see here. Back to Zoom. I need to share my screen. What am I sharing here? My desktop? Okay. Is that right? PowerPoint. All right, you guys seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about sound, vibration, and healing. And just go a little bit into practical, like I said, practical tools and what we can do to work within ourselves. So sound, as far as when we talk about healing and what it can do, what it can affect, tons of stuff, you know, grief, PTSD, we can use it for meditation, expansion of our consciousness, clearing our energy, relaxing, communicating with the divine, anxiety. And this isn't even like everything. Sound is just a really great modality for all sorts of transformation and shifts of our energy. So just starting out quickly, I think it's important to say, what is sound? And sound is a form of energy, and it travels in waves. It comes from a vibrating source. So perfect example, if we put our fingers on our throat and we start talking, la, 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 we're going to feel the vibration, right, of the voice box and the sound that's created, and then it reaches our ears, and then we hear that it travels in these invisible ways. It can travel through solids and liquids and gases, and it can also be experienced directly through our skin and through our bodies, which really makes it part of why it's so very powerful, because we can experience the feelings of this vibration in different hertz or frequencies, which is another thing to talk about just quickly. I'm sure you guys have heard about, like, or you may or may not, but the 528 hertz is your DNA repair. So different hertz, different frequencies affect different parts of our bodies. And the frequencies is basically the cycles per second and how fast that sound is traveling. So if it's a low hertz, 32 hertz would be a lower sound than 528. So moving in how fast it's moving, how many cycles per second, determines what we're going to hear, but it also determines how it affects different parts of our body or emotions or shifts in consciousness or brainwaves. So many thousands of years ago, you know, sound has been around. I'm not going to go way back in history, but I want to talk about some important people when it comes to the use of sounds. And, you know, we can talk about, you know, Apollo, who is the god of music, you know, very important person when it comes to sound healing. You know, Plato and Aristotle they believed and claimed that music affected the soul and the emotions. Hippocrates played music for his patients. You know, the ancient Rome of god of medicine, you know, the staff that's curled, of course, that relates to the current day sign, the symbol that's associated with medicine. And Orpheus, of course, was known for enchanting the animals and the birds and the reptiles with his music. And so, you know, way back, you know, the Greeks, the Romans, already knew that using sound as a form of healing was effective and really part of our nature. And then, of course, Pythagoras, we really need to mention him, because basically, you know, he was the father of mathematics, you know, one of the greatest mathematicians and philosophers of time, but he was also an extremely accomplished musician and a healer, and very connected to our universe and sound vibration and music, coming up and discovering harmonics and intervals, which we use in sound therapy quite often today, combining different notes to create different intervals. One that you would be familiar with would be, of course, the perfect fifth. The perfect fifth being very harmonious and very healing, taking a C and a G note, combining them, making this fifth. And so Pythagoras played a very important role way back then in coming up with the golden mean and harmonics, and how we currently use music today, not just in sound healing, but in our orchestras and etc. Oops, what am I doing here? Okay. And so, of course, even within the pyramids and within the chambers there, we know that sound was used quite extensively. And some people say that, you know, the ways that they were set up, they used the chambers and the passageways and the way that they were positioned in such a precise fashion. It maximized their acoustical qualities, and even may have been used to create this magnificent like source of power. So were they there to be the tombs for their kings, or were they there as these gimungo batteries? You know, who knows? But was part of this technology some of what Tesla based some of his studies and technology on, this use of scalar energy, this use of pulling in the natural power that's available to us in the universe. I don't know. I can't answer that, but it's just one of those things that makes you go, right? Mm-hmm. So if we look at the science of sound and our brains and how sound stimulates our brain responds to a lot of different stimuli, as we know, light being one stimuli, sound, of course, being another. And when our brain is affected by sound, by changing sort of the electrical circuitry within. So if we talk about brain waves, states of brain waves, like the beta and alpha and theta and the delta and the gamma, sound can very easily shift and change these brain states. Why is that important? Because it allows us to relax, enter into the state where we call it the relaxation response, where our parasympathetic nervous system is really allowed to do what it normally is supposed to do, instead of being overruled by the sympathetic, which is that fight or flight. So we're not running around like we're being chased by a tiger and having all of our stress and cortisol up. So sound can be used very successfully to synchronize our brain waves. You guys, I'm sure, have heard of binaural beats, and binaural beats will work to help entrain and synchronize our brain waves. And the way that binaural beats work is, if we want to talk about like the theta brainwave, which is between 4 and 7 hertz, would be the cycle of our theta brainwaves. You know, if we are in beta, more alert, more active, which is 15 to 20, and we want to shift it down to the 4 to 7 hertz and then train our brain. Well, the way that binaural beats work is a beat would be played in one ear, a beat is played in another ear, and then the brain makes up the difference. So for example, if we want to get to the theta that's between 4 and 7 hertz, we would want to have the brain being trained to a hertz that's between 4 and 7. So we could play a hertz that's 10 in one ear, 14 in the other ear, and then the brain makes up the difference of 4 hertz and then trains it to the 4 hertz. Does that make sense? Is that making sense?
Sort of.
Sort of? Okay. Well, I don't think a lot of people like consider or think about like how binaural beats actually work. But what they're doing is they're feeding one frequency into this side of the ear and another frequency into the right ear. I'm like, what's my ear? I'm looking at myself backwards. So the right ear the left ear, obviously we're playing two different frequencies. So a 10 and a 14. 14 minus 10 is 4 hertz. So our brain, because we're getting one frequency in this ear and one in this one, it's like, I'm getting 10, I'm getting 14. It's like, I don't know. I'll make up the difference. So that 4 hertz is what our brain becomes entrained to. And 4 hertz correlates to a theta brainwave. So anyway, that's just one way. I'm just kind of explaining it quickly here, but that's one way we use sound to entrain our brain and shift the cycle, the wave of our brain frequency, which is important because it takes us from waking consciousness to, delta, which is our deep sleep. And when we talk about this group in the automatic writing, being in like a theta, which is right before our delta, is a super juicy space where we can be lucid. Even if we go from beta to alpha, we're still going to be able to have more of a creative flow within our writing. So for you, Sheila, as a writer, being in that alpha is going to be really great for when you're trying to get a lot of your writing done. So part of our goal when we meditate is to shift the brain state, to change our consciousness. People who are channelers or they're mediums or they're psychics or they do automatic writing want to shift out of that aware, awake, driving my car, state to more of the flow. Okay, so we'll just go with that and I'll keep talking and it may just kind of like gel a little bit more. Okay. So when we talk more even, we're getting to these Tibetan bowls, Sheila. So we know that sound can affect our brain and it can affect our consciousness and where we are, which really helps us to relax and let go of stress. Instruments have a big effect on that as well. And this is Dr. Mitch Geener, who did a lot of groundbreaking work with Tibetan bowls and his patients and working with cancer. He was an oncologist. And so the Tibetan singing bowl has been used for, I'm just going to drink of water really quick. The Tibetan bowl has been used for centuries for healing and for meditative purposes. And Dr. Gaynor used it, like I said, with great success with his patients. And so the sounds that are generated by the Tibetan singing bowl are a type of like energy medicine, and it's been shown that it promotes healing from many different disorders and anxiety and pain and depression and actually many forms of disease. There are a lot of papers that have been published. So there's been a significant amount of research, which I'm happy to see, and more is coming down the road to really show exactly what's happening. And it's not just that, oh, Tibetan bowls are so lovely and beautiful and I love the sound. Yeah, yay. No, they actually have been proven to have an effect. Science, yay. And which I really love. I mean, I don't know that we necessarily have to have science to prove everything, but we kind of have to have science to prove everything. Because when we get more of this data that's recorded and more of this proof that these things are happening, then more and more hospitals, more and more places, you'll find this to be more of a mainstream modality. My aunt she lives in Los Angeles. She went to her hospital to get a recheck. She's had cancer, and she saw on the wall this advertisement showing the schedule for sound healing. And she was like, what? And of course she called me and I'm like, that is like really super duper exciting. And I'm really happy to see that. And I would love to see more of it. So Tibetan bowls. So this pure sonic waves, when you play the Tibetan bowls, and they're different from like a crystal bowl, a crystal singing bowl, those are one note, and A plays an A, as opposed to a Tibetan bowl, like you said, you have an E, major, E, sharp, E what?
I don't remember.
Anyway, so your E is going to play fundamentally your E, But the beautiful thing about Tibetan bowls is it will be combined with overtones and undertones. So you're getting this beautiful sonic sort of soup, so to speak, that will play and wake up our ability to hear with more than just our ears. Because and I don't know how much you played around with your bowl, but I know that with mine, it's like you hear it and then all of a sudden it becomes an experience. You know, we kind of fall into it because of it's like it's like an ocean. It's like an ocean of sound that we play and then trails off. So Tibetan bowls really affect us more than what we are hearing with the physical ear. I keep hitting the wrong silly button. Okay. So, you know, the one thing that Mitch Gaynor was saying, of course, you know, you can read it, I don't need to read it to you. But basically, if we're accepting that a sound and vibration touches every part of our bodies on a physical level and emotionally and spiritually, how could it not be this magical healing modality? You know, he was really, you know, Mitch Gaynor was really ahead of his time in this understanding that sound really deeply touches us on this very deep and transformative level. And it was shown also through the success he had in using it with his cancer patients. And just picture my dad and me, but you know, I'm bringing this out because through sound, you know, not only did we have interesting times with healing and working, but you know, bringing in the focus for my dad's Parkinson's, and he could feel the vibration through that, you know, and we talk about sound healing, it's not just these instruments, but using our voice. We'll talk further down the road. But I found when he sang or he emoted or used the vibration of his voice, he actually was able to speak more clearly. And I find that to be interesting, and it sort of to me points to, it's like this primal space within our brain that somehow remains a bit unaffected no matter what else is happening in this current reality. It's like kind of going back to our true nature, that part of us, the song, the vibration, you know, it's underneath all of this physically manifested stuff in our present. And that sounds strange, but I think you may understand what I'm talking about. So it was who someone talked about going to a gong bath and going to a sound bath. But, you know, another way we can receive healing from sound is through going to a physical sound bath, whether it's with gongs or Tibetan bowls or chimes or whatever. And it's been shown, they've actually done some scientific research and studies on the effect of gong baths and Tibetan sound baths, and been able to find significant data that realize positive outcomes for PTSD, anxiety, stress, depression, release of emotion, you know, etc. And then, you know, for me, I find, you know, but you have your own Tibetan bowl, Sheila, is having your own instrument and being able to connect to this. This is my mother's 1 year anniversary thing. But for me, bringing in the sound was this beautiful way to, again, go deep, go ancient, and connect with the vibration of beyond the veil, you know. So we can use sound not only for healing in the present, but for this connection really deep, because, you know, we think about when we leave this world and, you know, what are we? We're a vibration. So it's just this transformation of container, and the vibration is still existing in some form. So I find sound to be a very powerful way to connect with loved ones in the light, with angelic beings, with ascended masters, because we're tapping into this ethereal vibration. And I just really love that I can talk about these things in this group, because some of these things you have to leave out in certain talks, you know, people are like, wait, what? Can you say ethereal? And then with animals too, I wanted to include this because sound is very effective with animals. My dog had this allergic reaction, had to take her to emergency vet. She's nervous, she's itching, she can't stop scratching. They had to take her temperature, and of course she's just like, what? So when I wrapped my arm around her and I began to hum very softly, and it took that moment where she just focused on my vibration, my voice, my humming, temperature taking done. Now we can move on. But it was this connection that I was able to create with her just from falling into my heart and then humming from my heart to her heart and creating this connection of just, okay. And I also find, I think it's really valid to point out that when we use sound healing when our animals are sick or our family is sick or something's happening, the circus is in town. No, I'm just kidding. Is that, you know, part of me wonders that, you know, is a large part of the shift, the fact that my energy, my worry, my concern, is being eased, and therefore we can create a resonant matching of calm, right? So it's like chicken and egg kind of thing. You know, the fact that I can let go and be present creates an environment and a space that is open for a resonant frequency of space and calm and etc. So no matter what, you know, it's a win-win situation. So when we talk more about things that we can do on our own, and I talked about this in the Zoom group as well, and it's because I find it really important when we want to talk about like our own self-healing and how can we easily incorporate sound into our lives. And I find that drumming is an amazing way to bring sound healing into our life. And drums they're not very expensive. You can get a beautiful frame drum for under $50. Even better, you can look around for a workshop and make your own drum, which, you know, wouldn't that be super cool if we could do like an online Zoom drum making? You know, if everybody like knew like what supplies to go and gather, and then we like met on Zoom and made drums. I don't know, I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, so
how long does it take to make a drum?
Yeah, I know, right? It'd be like, it's gonna be a 4-hour Zoom workshop, but you know, maybe it could be like a quilting bee, and we meet, you know, once a week for a month or something, you know, and just work on it for a half an hour. I don't know. I'm going off on a crazy tangent, but you know, I do that, so now you know. But drums, okay, so why do I suggest drums? Well, it's because drums have been proven to have so many different attributes and properties as far as transformation and healing. There's been a study done that has shown that there are specific rhythms you can use with a drum that have had actual cancer fighting properties, which is like, what? So what they do is they enhance these natural killer cells in your system. They enhance your immune system, which actually helps with fighting cancer and slowing the progression. So they're super great. And I love the fact that drums are they're used often now in hospitals. They have, you know, drum circles, and in oncology, they'll have drum circles and we'll use them. And obviously now we know why. But they've been used with Parkinson's patients, and it's been shown that when they hear these slow, steady rhythms, it can help them walk better and walk at a steadier pace. and it can deal with the depression that is oftentimes felt with somebody with Parkinson's. But drums will also synchronize the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, and it helps to build neural connections. So drums make you smarter. So there you go. And if you really want to like bang on the drum and really like work at it, so you're going to get smart, you're going to get cardio, you know, you're going to fight cancer and depression and anxiety. And see, you guys are all going to hang up and run out and buy a drum. Yay. But the other thing about drums is they can also connect us to other worlds, right? So drums have been used for eons in shamanic practices, and being able to communicate with these other dimensions, with, you know, the lower world and the higher world and the middle world, to honor the directions, you know, the 4 directions, to communicate with the land, with the animals, with the plants, with the ancient ones, with our ancestors. Drumming is fantastic for guiding you into a beautiful trance-like state where you can journey. If anyone on this call is interested, you can send me an email afterwards, or I can send it to Sheila. But there's some really great pre-prepared shamanic drumming tracks that I have found. There's a lot of them out there, so you got to be like a little bit careful. And I found a 15-minute and a 30-minute one that I really love. I use it with clients when I will, you know, guide them into a shamanic journey. If I want to use other instruments and I can't be like playing everything at once, I'll use this beat. But as far as like being guided into a trance state where you can take a journey, you can find your spirit guide, you can find ancestors to talk to for wisdom or whatever. The drum is just a really beautiful thing, and it's one of the instruments that I encourage people to go and purchase, because it's, like I said, it's not expensive, and it has a lot of positive attributes that it can bring into your life, connecting to your higher power and putting you in the moment. So, and then we want to talk a little bit about, we're going to shift through from instruments and kind of move into voice now, and the power of mantra, the power of chant, and another sacred sound. What?
Do you mind if I ask a question, or do you want me to hold it?
Ask a question. Yeah. Zip in.
Well, I think, I mean, it's the same question for what's coming up. Does it make a difference if you're listening, like for drumming, if you're listening to it in person, because you get the vibrations, I guess, in one way, or on a recording?
Yeah, I have not found it to make a difference.
Okay.
Because it's the beat that is entraining your brain. The beat is what is bringing you into that trance. Now, I will say that being in a drum circle with somebody who's guiding you, or you have somebody who's actually, you know, when there'll be times when I'm in session one-on-one and I actually take the drum and I have it like right on the person or right on their heart for a specific purpose. And that is going to be a little bit different because you're going to feel it, but you're going to be guided into that same trance state, no matter if it's in person or not. Right? Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So when we talk about, so we're shifting into chanting and hymns and, you know, this devotional singing, you know, not just the, you know, singing of our favorite pop song or whatever. This is very different because it's devotional. So there is intention that goes with it. So, you know, we've had, you know, all the way through time, you know, the Gregorian chants, and I love this picture of this monk standing there and all of these hymn books like flying off of the shelves, because it's kind of like what I envision, you know, that these words that were in these, you know, hymn books from thousands of years ago were magic, you know. I mean, I just would, I feel like if you walked within those halls, you would almost float. You know, it's like your feet wouldn't even touch the ground because you would just be so, you know, uplifted with this beautiful vibration that you would just simply float. Maybe that's why they wore those like long white robes, because it covered the fact that they actually were floating. I don't know. You never know. It's fun. I think it's fun to kind of imagine. So, but you know, Gregorian chants have been used to calm the mind, to connect with the divine, to connect with God, to provide healing. And it was interesting because in the late 60s, so there were these monks who, you know, for hundreds of years, obviously these monks have kept a very rigorous schedule, where they don't sleep very long, but they chant, you know, like 6 to 8 hours a day. And so this was in the late 60s. And a new abbot had come in, and I don't know where this abbey was, but a new abbot had come in, and he had said, you know, we're gonna cut out the chanting, we're gonna spend more time doing this. And the monks became tired and lethargic, and the more sleep they got, the more tired they were. And so they ended up calling on this guy. His name is Alfred Tomatis. He is a French physician, and he is also a psychologist and an audiologist. If you have tinnitus, research Alfred Tomatis. So have you heard of him, Sheila?
No, but I have tinnitus.
Oh, well, check him out because he's done a lot of groundbreaking work with tinnitus. And email me. I've got some ideas for you.
Okay.
But anyway, so they're getting tired. They're not chanting. They're like, the more they sleep, the more tired they get. Tomatis comes in to find out what's going on. He believes that, you know, chanting and, you know, certain kinds of music served a special purpose and energized the brain and body. And he believed that the chants that the monks had been chanting were actually energizing them. And so he reintroduced the chanting along with a program of listening to different stimulating sounds. And then the monks soon found their energy again. And so the monks thousands of years ago had already obviously harnessed and discovered the power of sound in the spoken and chanted prayer. And so I don't know if any of you guys do chanting or mantra or any of that right now. But bringing that in and practicing chanting mantra, you'll find that it's like super energizing. And there's a resurgence of mantra today in the form of kirtan. The call and response is really growing and happening a lot more. And I absolutely just love mantra, which we're going to talk about next, because this is another practice that you guys can do on your own. And so what are mantras? Well, there are specific sounds or vibrations whose effects are known. So there's literally like thousands of mantras. And when we chant a mantra, it's a vibration. And our tongue is also vibrating on the roof of our mouth, where a number of meridian points sit. So we're affecting the meridian system. So if you're familiar with traditional Chinese medicine, we have meridians running through our body. And so chanting mantras also affects the meridian system in different ways. And so mantras have been used for thousands of years for healing and transformation and inner awakening. And, it would just take forever to talk about everything that surrounds mantras. So just briefly, mantra is a mind tool. Mantra. So it's a tool for the mind. Man meaning mind, tra meaning train or tool. So it's something that we use to entrain the brain or focus it on something else or call something up within the universe. So because our mantras have different vibrations that are known, meaning there are mantras that are for abundance or healing or transformation or, you know, peace on earth. And so we call up these mantras. They're like a cell phone number, right? So it's like, oh, I need some abundance. I'm going to call up Lakshmi using a Lakshmi mantra, and, you know, chant that mantra for abundance, because it's the vibration that is within the mantra that we are tapping into. So I want us to try this one. We didn't get a chance to try it in the Zoom group because I was flying through that so quickly. But this is a really beautiful mantra. The mantra is, some of you may have heard it, is a Buddhist mantra. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. And it means, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. So when we chant this mantra, our intention is really just for peace on earth, but not just that, for this reminder, this knowing within us, so that when we can go forth, we will innately, we will just instinctually, it will just come forth from us that we will contribute in others' happiness and freedom, and therefore lack of suffering. So it's a very beautiful mantra. I'm going to just play it very quickly. I mean, just, you want to just close your eyes and just listen for a moment. So even I think you could feel in that short period of time this shift. When you're chanting mantra, I recommend at least 3 minutes of chanting it out loud, and really much longer. But when we chant mantra, you know, part of the goal is we start to chant this mantra outwardly. And it slowly starts to really go deeper within, so that eventually this vibration of this mantra is sinking deeper and deeper into our consciousness, and eventually feeling the presence of this vibration deep within us, so that the mantra eventually is chanting us instead of us chanting the mantra. So it's a very powerful practice as far as allowing ourselves to heal and to transform. And many people will pick a mantra and chant it for 40 days, or they'll use a mala, which has 108 beads, which is very significant. And they'll chant their mantra 108 times using their mala as they go through the beads. And so they'll do that as a practice. But it's very, very powerful. And I super encourage you to try chanting mantra out. And you can chant just the Loka Samasta, or I'll show you another one, which I know you're all familiar with in a moment. But I think it's really important. On this slide, we see frequency plus intention equals healing. And Jonathan Goldman, who's a very well-known sound healer, really came up with this. And talking that, it's not just the sound, but it's the frequency behind it. So even if we're chanting a mantra of just the word one, and our intention is just oneness, that is going to be very powerful and very healing. So we add our intention into whatever frequency it is, playing your Tibetan bowl, that frequency, relaxing, I'm opening up my creative centers, my intention, right? We add that in, it's like it puts sound on steroids. So cannot understate how powerful intention is. So the other mantra, of course, is most people know, and it's what's called a seed mantra, a bija mantra, which is just one syllable, and that is Om. You can chant an Om over and over, and you find that Om, it's one of the most universally recited mantras, and Om, which is O-M, is really A-U-M. It's 3 parts. Om, Om. And we can chant that over and over and find ourselves getting into a state of relaxation or neutrality. It's such a great go-to. And using our voice for sound healing is so super powerful because we carry it with us wherever we go. We always have it with us. So chanting Om is beautiful, and it is believed to contain every vibration that has ever existed, ever. So it's a pretty powerful kind of thing, kind of word to bring along with you. But so using our voices to heal ourselves, raising our vibration, encourage you to explore that. So toning, let's talk a little bit about toning. So we talk about chanting, which really isn't singing, but there's more words that are involved with it. When we talk about toning is just using like one sound or one note or one vowel. And toning is like incredibly easy to do, and it is incredibly healing. It has been shown to help with depression, encourage intuitive abilities, and actually I have this ginormous list here. Enhance your personal path, spiritual path, immediate stress relief. It can relieve physical and emotional pain. It can balance hemispheres of the brain. Excuse me. It can help you to breathe more deeply. And what I love about toning is it's just so super simple. You can use toning and use that sound. You can be toning a certain vowel and then bring it down to a certain part of your body. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. That might be experiencing pain or discomfort, and bring that tone into like your knee or your ankle. And so we're going to practice a little bit of toning today here, just using the sound of ah, A-H, ah. And this is it's a very heart-opening sound. So we bring the sound down into our heart space. And as you I'm going to go get a proper drink of water and get rid of this cough. Okay. So which is beautiful. It's part of a lot of longer, very significant spiritual types of words like Amen, Buddha, Krishna, Tara, right? So it's part of this ending or beginning of some very spiritual type words. So the word as this toning syllable contains a lot of high vibration of just pure peace and love. And so when we tone, we want to just allow the sound to organically evolve, to erupt, to happen. You know, so if I was toning like a I'm just going to allow that sound to come through me. And when we tone the we're going to imagine it to be originating in the center of our chest, in the center of our heart space. So I want you to all try toning this from your heart. As you tone this just begin to feel in your heart an expansion. And you can allow yourself to send through this peace, love, and compassion to someone you love, and maybe to someone you may not love so much. Opening up the heart to compassion through the We allow the to come out for the length of the breath, and then inhale deep and allow the to begin again. Toning from the center of your heart space. Hey, how was that? I just love toning as well. I was actually doing it in the bathtub today because I find that like the shower or the bath creates like this beautiful resonant chamber of just vibration, just bring you back into center. And water, it's just like this, so conducive. It's just lovely. So try it in the shower or the bath. So let's move on to humming, which will be the last thing that I'm going to show you. And humming, which is just people don't pay much attention to, and we have it with us. Again, it's our voice no matter where we go. But when we hum and we combine it with our breath, it is a super powerful way to release and let go of stuck energy and tension. It is great for clearing our throat chakra. It's just a very soothing form of sound medicine that infuses your body with like a ton of therapeutic benefit. And it's just fun. I love it. It's super easy. It brings vibration into you. It relaxes you. What else? It allows like if you've got a lot of chattery stuff going on in your head, it allows those to calm down a bit. So if we're stuck in some of that loop of ruminant, those ruminating thoughts, yammer, going to humming allows us to, bam, bring back to focus in a very quick manner. Humming, people are like, I don't know how to hum. But let's just talk a little bit about humming and how we can do humming to make it the most beneficial practice for us. So when we do just a humming practice, and I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced one in a moment, but it's really about getting in sort of a relaxed state and taking a nice deep breath, having the lips closed but not forced tight, and then just like exhaling and for the length of the breath, really extending the breath out, inhaling again, and then continuing that. And there are times that I'll do this hum, and I like to bring my eyes up and into my third eye. And I find I just have this big expansion of my consciousness when I add this intention of kind of like this third eye opening. But they've also done scientific studies when we talk about like bringing it into like the third eye in this area, that it's actually great for the health of your sinuses. So, I have had this cold and I'm working on getting through it. So I've been doing a lot of humming to help keep my sinuses clear and open. And they found that there's a release of nitric oxide, which is very healing for our body and for our system. And so there's something to this this humming. And people, the Egyptians, were really big on the humming, and obviously because they revered the bee, and they had the bee goddess. And so this humming and the sound of the bee and the buzzing has been around forever. And as we talked about, Sheila, the plants, the flowers, they've shown and proven scientifically that flowers can sense this humming, this buzzing of the bee, and they produce a sweeter nectar. So even within nature, our plants are smarter than us, let's just face it. And, they already are, see that the beauty and the buzz, they create the sweet nectar. They see the symbiotic relationship of us and nature. So, which is one more thing I don't want to forget. But when we think about sounds and sound healing, we often think, okay, I'll use my voice. I will use my Tibetan bowl. I will, it involves using this or using that. But one of the best ways to incorporate sound and really connect back to our world and just get grounded is to go out into nature and listen. Listen to the sound of the bees, listen to the birds, listen to the wind blowing. you know, allowing ourselves to get quiet and being open to the natural world and these sounds is so beautiful. I mean, our universe was created with a entire symphony that surrounds us. And so remembering to get back outside and taking that time just to sit and just be with the sounds with no judgment, you know, even if there's maybe busy cars driving by or other loud sounds, just being open without judging and just being aware and enhancing our observation skills. So back to our humming. We just want to practice like a simple humming meditation. We're just going to sit in quiet. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to straighten our spine, dropping our shoulders, and just finding this relaxed position, gently touching the lips together so that our hum can just travel easily into the head and the neck and the face. And we're going to just, the jaws relax, the lips are gently together. We're going to take a nice slow deep breath in. And on our exhale, create an on the exhale without opening our lips. And continue to hum for the length of your exhale. Inhaling when you need to, and just repeating for a few moments until I ask you to stop. Now please keep your eyes closed, but just allow yourself to sit in silence for a moment. Perfect. All right. So there's another more advanced practice of doing the humming, and it's called Brahmari Pranayam, and translates to bee breath. There was a goddess Brahmari, who was the bee goddess, and this is a very ancient practice. And I absolutely love this practice of pranayama because it is so relaxing. It's amazing for anxiety, and it works very quickly. And part of how like this the humming with intention and the Brahmari Pranayam is we're combining this beautiful vibration of the hum along with breath. So we're increasing the breath. We're, you know, we have anxiety. There's this tendency to do a very rapid chest breathing, which is so interesting to me because why does our body not know that when we do rapid chest breathing, it like exacerbates anxiety? You know, why doesn't our body automatically take us down to deep belly breathing, which is more relaxing? You know, I'm sure this goes back to the caveman days and somehow helped us to get the tiger or run faster or kill the deer. I don't know, who knows? But so when we do a practice like Brahmari Pranayama, as we combine the humming, the bee breath, which has been shown to have all sorts of wonderful therapeutic benefit, we also have the breath work. And then we also are adding in some sensory deprivation, so to speak. So as we close, when we close off of our ears, we're really bringing the vibration of that hum within. So let's go ahead and try it here. And when we're ready to stop, I'll just like talk loudly so that you guys can hear me, right? And if you don't, you keep doing it, so who cares? You get to do it longer. You'll eventually come back. I won't leave you here forever, right? So it's the same way. So our basic humming, our lips are closed, not super tight, but enough so that when that M, that buzzing comes through, we feel the vibration. When we close off the ears and rest them on our head, you're really going to feel how that sound brings you within to this unbounded, expanded space. You know, I'm assuming most of you, if not all of you, are seasoned meditators. And when you meditate and you find, you're like, holy cow, it's really big in there. You know, what? And you're like, open your eyes and you're like, wait, where's all that space? So, you know, we you know, close off the ears and bring in the vibration. We really can become in touch with this whole realization of this expansiousness of what we really are, right? Of what our true nature is and our connection, you know, through the dimensions, you know, through this invisible kind of veil. So anyway, let's just start it. So I want you to take the same sort of seated posture that you did before, a nice straight spine. You know, shoulders are relaxed. We're going to take the thumbs and we're going to close off the ears and just rest the fingers on, let me get down here, rest the fingers on the tops of the head with the eyes closed, and we'll begin again, deep inhale and extending the exhale as long as is comfortable with your humming of the and then when it's done, take a nice, so make it smooth back and forth, trying to extend your exhale, but only as long as is comfortable. So let's go ahead and let's begin. Let's take a nice deep inhale and exhale with your and I'll shout out loud when it's time to end. Kids, relax your hands, keep your eyes closed. Just keep your eyes closed for a moment and just sit. And then you can go ahead and open your eyes. So this is a really great practice to do every day. And what I suggest to people is to get like your iPhone with or something that has like a buzzing or a vibration that you can kind of stick under your leg to go off after a certain time if you're timing yourself to do this for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. Or if you've got like an unlimited amount of time and it doesn't matter, just sit and do it until you're ready to let go of it. And as you practice and you can extend the exhale longer, you'll get increased benefit from the longer humming, but we never want to force the exhale to go longer than what's within our capacity, because that'll create stress. And that's opposite of what we want to do here. So building up to a long, deep inhale with a long exhale with that. Really find a lot of benefit from this practice, especially if you have a hard time falling into your meditation or if you have anxiety. It allows the brain something to really focus on and do, but it's taking us out of the analytical mind. So I encourage you to try that. So of course, the world, the way it would be if music and medicine were more closely linked, cure that illness in 3 notes. So let's set an intention that is our future, right? We're getting that way. And of course, as always and forever, I will end my talks with my dog, Ernie Noodle, who has affected and brought me to where I am today. Mr. Beautiful. So that is it for my talk, but I'm not going anywhere. I know it took a long time to get through here, but if you guys have, I guess I should have asked how long I had. I don't know. I just kept talking.
It's okay.
But if you guys have questions, let's see if I can figure out how to get off the share.
At the top,
Stop share. Maybe stop share.
Stop share is the way to go. Oh, thank you so much. That was really great. A lot of good stuff for us to practice.
Yes, right. And now hopefully it was stuff that, it's like super simple, that you don't have to go out and spend money. Although, having a drum or having like a Tibetan bowl, can be really beneficial.
I don't really know how to use my bowl so it's effective. Dana,
That same question. I have 2 bowls. I don't know how you're supposed to do it.
Okay.
What's the proper way?
The proper way. Well, I tell you what, I have no instruments with me because I'm at my office.
Okay.
I would totally love to do a Zoom play if you want, and I will bring some instruments.
Cool. Sounds
right? We could do
everybody's nodding, yeah.
Show a little bit of drum,
Yeah.
show a little bit of Tibetan bowl, show a little bit of crystal bowl, show a little bit, maybe a tuning fork or whatever, I think that would be super fun.
It would indeed.
I would love to do that.
Okay. Well, you let us know when. I know at one of our January meetings, we're having somebody who's going to channel for us.
Woo!
I hope you can come to that. But, any other time that you want to come and do that, we would love to have you.
Yay! Okay, so what would be really helpful is if you send me, those of you who have Tibetan bowls, if you've got more than one, or if you just have one, send me what note they are, if you know what notes they are. You don't even know. Okay, so that would be another thing to talk about. How do we find out?
Yes, like my one. I have no idea.
All right, that's
they're not marked. It's not marked, and mine looks very similar to yours. So
yes, this is a little teeny tiny one,
yeah.
But I think my other one looks just like yours.
I know, that's like weird. I'm like, wait a minute, and on my screen, you guys are
from another time. Just saying.
I'm like, you guys are like next to each other. You're like, I'm in the middle, and you're on both sides. I'm like, wait, what? This is weird.
So on my screen, it's not like that though.
No.
It's different on everybody's screen.
I was going to buy one, but I forgot if I wanted to buy C or D, and now I can't remember, so then I didn't buy one.
Well, This one?
We had them at church. We did a thing. I loved it, and I just couldn't remember if it was C or D that I really loved. So
Well, listen to the notes again.
Can you tell that's E something?
Let's see. I think I have a tuner. Hold on.
So do you ask for a certain note when you buy something, an instrument like this?
Well, you can, or you just may go somewhere and there's 5 or 6. Play it again first. Sheila, play your bowl. That's F sharp.
Oh, they lied to me, or I forgot.
Well, you know what? Okay, here's the thing with Tibetan bowls, is they will often have a different note when you strike them
Yeah.
and when you sing them. So when you sing them, it's going to sound different than when you strike them. In addition, because they're like 5 to 7 metals is their composition. If you use a hard mallet or a felted mallet or wooden mallet,
This one has
you may
felt.
bring out a different tone.
And this one is just wood, so that sounds quite different.
So I'm getting an F, not an F sharp. Oh, E flat. Play it again. Well, F sharp, E flat. Ugh. Yeah, it's F sharp.
Okay, and that's with the wooden mallet.
So if you're holding the bowl and then you
Right.
tap, is it a different sound when you're holding it versus if it's just sitting on a?
Oh.
No, that shouldn't make a difference.
Oh.
The only difference that it will make with your hand holding it is if you're not holding it correctly, you can dampen the vibration. So like when you play it, it's balanced. See my bowl? It's balanced on your hand, because if I held it like this, it'd be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'd be no sound.
Gretchen, would you be okay if I hit mine to see what it is?
Sure, go ahead.
No idea.
Do you have a Buddha in the bottom of yours too?
I just have a little stamp thing in the bottom, but I can't see that it says anything. Okay.
That is a C sharp.
I like that one.
C sharp. I'm gonna
And
write
you
it
can
down.
tell it was lower sound.
So different notes for different healing purposes.
Well, there is a school of thought that talks about like the chakras, and that the chakras go up in scale, starting with C for the root. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, kind of like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So, you've got C, and then your sacral would be D. And then your solar plexus would be E, heart F, throat would be G, third eye A, crown would be B. But in my research, and a lot of schools of thought is like, oh yeah, this is it. These are the notes. And I'm like, who came up with that? Yeah. I cannot find the origin of this. So that, is a little bothersome to me.
it's a little more recent, as I understand.
Huh?
The assigning of the notes is a little more recent, as I understand.
Well, right, it totally is. Except if you look, there's a Vedic system that has different notes than another system. So it's like, what's going on here? But intuitively, I really feel that as we move up the chakras, the frequencies get higher because we're moving up in our consciousness. And if you think about like being grounded and rooted is like, and angelic is more, right? So when you talk about like, is there a specific note? Now, I do know people who have done research and actually been able to find like, what is the frequency of our pancreas, for instance? What is the frequency of our heart, of our liver? Because our bodies are like an orchestra and filled with all different, instruments. And as long as my pancreas is playing, the right notes, and the liver is like boom, 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 we got something over here that's like,
That sounds like a porn movie.
right? Yeah. And so something's out of tune, then it's like, then we have disease is occurring in the body. But back to your specific notes, yes, in some way, I like to think of it more as, are there specific frequencies that will do certain things? Because we can also talk about combining notes or frequencies to create what, remember I talked about intervals and Pythagoras and harmonics and the perfect fifth. A perfect fifth is like, healing, beautiful. Whereas you combine a second interval and it's going to sound a little like, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. But there's nothing wrong with that sort of discordant, I'm not, because it moves energy. It moves energy. And, something's a little uncomfortable, we're going to move. Just the same thing with energy. So discordant or edgy or that doesn't sound so great is really good in sound therapy because it actually gets things going. Think about, I'm going to light a fire under your ass, right? And it's kind of like, not to be crass, but that's really what's happening when you play some of these, like, oh, I don't like that sound. Well, the energy doesn't like it either, so it's going to move. Makes sense?
I had a friend that I dragged to church when they did the thing at my church. And she was going, but with 130% skepticism, everything. She also suffers from migraines.
Oh.
And so when they're doing this and they're coming around to her with the bowls, afterwards she said, I don't know what happened, but my migraine went away and I just started to giggle.
That's awesome. I love that. I super love that. I mean, proof is in the pudding, I've had, different, so many people come up to me after like a sound bath or whatever with, I'm like, wait, what? And that was years ago when I actually decided that I needed to go to school and I needed to learn what the heck is going on, because people would, come up to me after playing my gong or whatever. And I'm like, I have no idea what I did. And I wanted to be able to repeat those things, to replicate those things, and to find out what the heck did I do? Am I magic? No. Well, yeah, but no, I'm just kidding. So, there was, what's the science behind what's happening here? And it was fascinating to me that there actually is a science behind it. And sound is super powerful. Yeah. Kathleen, did you have a question?
Yeah. The science behind the sound frequencies. I've been listening to a lecture series that was recorded by Bruce Lipton.
Oh, fantastic. He's like totally down with sound and frequency.
System of the cell. And it finally gave me my aha moment on why frequency heals. And if I can just share a little bit of what I learned from the lecture.
Sure, yeah.
The whole concept of how a cell operates from the inside out, from the nucleus out, has totally been altered, the understanding, through the field of epigenetics, which says that the field is what controls the cell. So we live in the field and are surrounded by this field of information, and we have receptors such as our eyes, our nose, our ears, our skin. And as each cell within our body, as we micromanage down to the little bitty tissues, they all have little receptors, like 100,000 receptors on a cell, that some want to get hormones, some want to get this, some want to get
right.
Thousands of them. And from the outside in, the little receptor goes into the cell needs, and all these little things in our blood, in the air, whatever, hit the receptor. Now, in order to activate the protein, it takes either a chemical reaction or a toxin or frequency. And when I heard that, frequency can cause the process inside the cell to happen, then that made me understand how sound, how vibration, instead of chemistry, instead of pharmaceuticals, because he said vibration is 70 times more powerful than pharmaceuticals, you can set off the little proteins doing their job with sound. And that's why your bells, the humming, we're constantly setting off telling our little protein receptors what each of the cells need. And it finally made sense to me.
Yeah.
The other thing he said was that since we're all energy, our cells are all energy, when the vibration of sound hits the cell, and it's either going to be in phase or out of phase. And the way that frequency heals or harms is the degree to which they're out of phase when it hits it, or how it amplifies it and destroys. It just blasts open the tumor cell, like the soprano that breaks open the crystal bulb. They now use frequency to zap kidney stones and to zap tumors and destroy them by upsetting the energy field, the way in which it upsets it. And so, like he said, people have good vibes and bad vibes. And you can tell when you're around somebody with good vibes, your vibes are in a nice harmony. But when you're with people who have bad vibes, they cancel each other out. And so that is how sound and frequency heal, because all cell processes need either some kind of a chemical reaction or a frequency. And it said, thank you, Bruce. Now I understand.
Thank you for that. What was this gentleman's name, by the way?
Bruce Lipton.
And it just makes total sense, because when I went to the Dr. Joe Dispenza workshops.
Oh, I love Dr. Joe. I had brunch with him. He's great.
This summer, people were getting their whole body chemistry elevated, just with all this frequency in the room of love and opening our hearts. And it zaps the frequencies, destroyed people's skin diseases, tumors went away. It's because they cannot exist in that particular frequency. And I'm really excited about the techniques you gave us for the humming and reinforcing the importance of that. Bringing it in, doing it ourselves, meditating, humming. It's just wonderful. Thank you, Gretchen.
You're so welcome. And Kathleen, a lot of what you're talking about is the law of resonance, right? So it's finding that resonance. And part of the reason, if we can continue to raise our vibration and bring in this extension of love, like you talked about in Dr. Joe's workshop, such a high resonance, well, it does it. It's like, because they attracts like kind of thing. Right?
And disease is incoherent frequencies going on, particularly in our lower chakras, which are our first, second, and third. And he has a blessing of the energy centers where you just kind of focus your energy. And in that process of the brain and the breath, getting into the rhythm, starting training your brain and your breath, your breathing, and you're opening your heart, then all of a sudden your body goes into this beautiful frequency as you move your energy through breath up to the chakras, to where you release all this energy and you get out of the way and you stop thinking and you just kind of float out there in the field and the quantum, and it's healing. It's just,
yeah, it is. It is. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
And the funny thing is that your sound, Kathleen, is different tonight. I don't know what you're doing differently, but it's a little blurry, at least to me. And oh, okay. But that makes me think of something else. And I know it's late for some of you, Chasey. And Pam, if you need to leave, leave. But you remember last year that whole thing about Laurel and Yanni? Do you hear about that, Gretchen? That they would play this word Laurel or Yanni, and
Yep.
Oh, right. What do you hear? Do you hear Laurel or do you hear Yanni? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I just wonder about other things like that, and why do we hear things that shouldn't be that different? But yeah, different people heard it different ways.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember what I heard. I think I heard Laurel, then I heard Yanni, then I heard Yanni, then I heard Laurel. Then I was like, okay, what am I doing? How long have I spent on this?
Yeah, really. But it just makes me wonder about that. That it was like, people have strong opinions on whatever, on
Right.
opposite sides.
I had two more questions.
Yes.
Is a cat purr? I heard this. I don't know if it's a wives' tale. Is a cat purr frequency the 7.83 Schumann resonance
No.
frequency? Is it anywhere near that?
It's 25 hertz.
25 hertz. Okay. Then the other question I had.
And it's very healing, by the way.
The other question I had, two questions. When you had the 10 and the 14 to give us the 4 binaural beat, is it just as, but 10 and 12 and 14 and 4 are way down there close to the theta. What if you had 528 and 532? Will you still end up with 4 in the theta?
Yeah.
If you're that high up, so your brain goes to the 4 and the others don't.
It doesn't matter. It was just I just pulled a number out.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it could be 10 and 20. What's the difference? It's 10. So it doesn't matter. It's what you're looking for is the difference, right? And you need to be able to hear it. So, I mean, 528, you can still hear 528.
Right. Okay. Then you mentioned the golden mean.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever read, the fundamental tone, the octave overtone, the octave and a fifth, the 2 octaves, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the overtones.
So Fibonacci, are we talking?
No, those are just the overtone frequencies of a tone.
Okay.
So if it's twice as
The
fast
harmonic.
the harmonics. Do you know if that relationship is a reverse golden mean?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because if you have a tone and you divide it in half, and from each side you get an octave. If you divide it in thirds, 1/3 is an octave and a fifth. If you divide it in fourths, it's 2 octaves, then it's a third, 2 octaves and a fifth. And they get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you've got smaller, and I'm wondering if anyone has ever shown that relationship as a golden mean. With the big part of the conical shell, the octave. Are any of you following me?
Yes, and the harmonics, excuse me, there is a relationship with the golden mean or the Fibonacci and the notes and the harmonics. And some of this relates to, like, do you do your tuning in 440 or do you do your tuning in 432? But the ratio, there's definitely a correlation to the golden mean.
Okay, because that would then show why it's so healing, because the Fibonacci numbers are what guides the universe.
Right. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow. Well, I think this is maybe the longest we've gone.
Yay! Sorry about my random coughs.
No. You need the bees to make you some honey.
I do.
Honey,
toddy.
You know what I've got, because I had an ear infection when I came back from Europe in a cold, and a friend said, slice up some lemons, and I'm shaving ginger, fresh ginger.
Ginger, the lemon and ginger.
Yeah, put it in a glass and pour honey over it and let it sit for a little while and just sip from it. It's really good.
That's
kind of honey.
That's brilliant.
Yes, ginger.
I didn't think about the ginger, but adding the ginger to it.
You can just slice it up, but I'm shaving it really thin so that I come back and I eat it after the honey is soaked into it.
I love ginger.
Good. Yes. Well, thank you for talking to us when you have had a cold.
You're like so welcome. I'm like super looking forward to it, and we'll look ahead to the calendar and do just like a play night.
Yeah,
instruments and whatnot.
I noticed that our next scheduled meeting is New Year's Day, which probably means that we're not going to be meeting. So then we will next meet on the 15th when I'm spacing on her name. Wait a minute. Let me look. That my friend Peter Dennis is, oh my gosh. You know, last weekend I installed Windows 10 and now things are messed up. I can't.
Are you having issues with it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I can't even find my mouse. Okay, there you go. I installed this new graphics card this afternoon. That made a difference too, because Windows messed me up. So, okay, there we go.
So I added my email to the Zoom group chat. Yeah, the Zoom is a Zoom chat.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel free to email if you have questions that come up that you didn't think of or whatever, or comments or.
I think that I didn't put it on my calendar, but that the 15th, I believe, is when our, this other lady, guest, I think her name is Catherine or Kathleen, is going to do channeling.
That is fascinating. What's the date?
The 15th, January.
Okay.
So that will be our next meeting, since we'll miss the first. We meet on the first and third Wednesday of every month. So then the next one after that would be February 1st. Right? First, yeah. It's the Wednesday first.
Okay. Yay. All right, awesome. Yeah, I was trying to remember thinking about like the golden mean and the music theory, and was it Lady Gaga who incorporated some of those ratios in her music, I think?
Wait, that's not right.
The date, what?
The date, it's not. It's February 5th is the next. See, Windows 10.
Oh, is that the first Wednesday of the month?
The first Wednesday is the 5th.
Dang, those are the days I can never do.
February. Oh. Well, rats.
You know, Gretchen, the Greeks had their scales, like the A to A on the white notes was the Aeolian scale. The G to G on the white notes is like the Lydian. And they assigned certain emotional characteristics to those scales, but I don't know whether or not they had tones that were associated with those emotional moods that could have been an origin for the chakras. You see, A to A, white notes is a pure minor scale. G to G, white notes would have like an F instead of an F sharp. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, Lydian scale. E to E is a Phrygian scale. So there's different scales that the Greeks had, and might just be something to look into, because they all had emotional things that went with them, and it could have been the lighter ones. If G to G is the Lydian, and it maybe it opens you up more in the.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's so lovely, though, I think, to ponder and think about and see how it affects you and changes you,
A, B. Yeah, be interesting. There'd be no way to know.
Right. Well, if you go back and look through a lot of the sacred text and some of these writings, you find like some really fascinating references to sound and notes, and as well as like what's been channeled from like the heavenly kingdoms or levels, and the symphonies, and I mean it's just there's you can read about it forever.
And they use sound to lift the stones to build.
Well, that's one of the thoughts is that they used the acoustic properties were actually like a battery, like a power chamber, and part of how they used into their pulleys. I mean, you don't know. I mean, there's so many other aspects that are fascinating, how cymatics fits in and sacred geometry. And I mean, that's a whole, other fascinating, so many fascinating things.
Well, all frequency is sound. It's just that we can't hear it at all levels.